Welcome to NHL Stories. Tonight, let's unwind with a journey into the pasta slow, gentle walk along the legendary Silk Road. To begin, can you help us picture the start of a merchant's day in ancient Samarkand?
Absolutely. Imagine dawn in Samarkand. Sun filtering through latticed windows, merchants gathering in quiet courtyards, camels munching lazily. The air is sweet with dust and bread, signaling a world waking at its own pace quite unlike today's hurried mornings.
Already, it feels like a world apart. What role did calmness and ritual play in these merchants' mornings?
Rituals grounded them. Preparing camels, sharing tea, exchanging soft greetings all fostered patience. Unlike our digital alarms and commutes, their mornings eased them into the day and into the mindset required for uncertain, often perilous journeys.
Transitioning from the courtyard, let's talk broader context. The Silk Road is iconic, but can you explain its geography and why it was so vital?
Certainly, the Silk Road wasn't a single path, but a vast network stretching over 40 miles from China to the Mediterranean. It linked civilizations China, Persia, India, Rome, enabling not just trade, but cultural and technological exchange.
That interconnectedness sounds crucial. Was the Silk Road primarily used for luxury goods, or were there practical items as well?
Both. Silk and spices were valued, but so were salt, wool, and even stories. The road was like the internet of its day, transmitting not just goods, but ideas, art, and innovations between East and West.
Let's zoom in on the merchant's caravan. Why were camels the preferred animals, and who typically traveled together on these routes?
Camels were essential for desert travel. Think of them as ancient trucks. Their ability to carry heavy loads and go days without water made them unmatched. Caravans included traders, guides, laborers, and sometimes entertainers or monks, each adding security and companionship.
It sounds like a mobile community. Did these groups ever face challenges working together?
Definitely, language barriers, cultural differences, and disputes over resources were common. Yet, shared risk sandstorms, bandits often fostered cooperation, forging bonds that sometimes lasted a lifetime.
You mentioned goods and stories as cargo. What were some typical items Rafik might carry, and why were stories so important?
Rafik's camels would bear silk, saffron, glass beads, and salt. But stories were equally valuable. They entertained, warned of dangers, or taught lessons. In a world with little written communication, oral storytelling was a vital social glue and survival tool.
How did these stories influence the cultures along the Silk Road?
They connected distant peoples. Fables from China reached Rome. Persian legends found new forms in India. In fact, many classic tales like Aladdin reflect this blending, showing how the road was a two-way street for imagination.
Let's explore the rhythm of travel. Unlike today's rush, Silk Road journeys were slow. How did this affect travelers' sense of time and patience?
Travel was meditative. Progress was measured by shadows, not clocks. This slowness demanded patience but also fostered mindfulness. Merchants learned to find beauty in small moments, a cooling breeze, the sound of camel bells, much like today's mindfulness practices.
Do you think this slower pace offered mental health benefits compared to our always-on lifestyles?
Absolutely. Studies show that slow, deliberate activity can lower stress, much like the merchant's journey. The predictability of daily routines and the acceptance of uncertainty promoted resilience and calm.
After a day's journey, caravans reached caravanserais. Can you describe what these were and their importance?
Caravanserais were fortified inns spaced about a day's travel apart. They offered water, shelter, and security. Picture a bustling courtyard, traders tending animals, sharing meals, exchanging news. These hubs fostered both commerce and cross-cultural friendships.
Were these places also centers for learning and diplomacy?
Very much so. Caravanserais were like ancient university scholars. Merchants and travelers would debate, share inventions, and form alliances. Many scientific and artistic ideas spread westward via these nightly gatherings.
Let's discuss evenings on the road. How did merchants like Rafik wind down after a long day?
Evenings were about restoration. Merchants fed and watered their animals, then gathered for simple meals: flatbread, lentils, figs. Around the fire, they exchanged stories, laughter, and advice. The crackling wood and soft camel bells created a comforting communal atmosphere.
Did these rituals help build trust among travelers?
Definitely, shared meals and stories broke down barriers. In fact, psychologists note that communal eating and storytelling are among the oldest ways to foster social bonds, vital for safety in remote, unpredictable environments.
As the landscape changed, so did the journey. What unique challenges did mountain passes present to merchants?
Mountain crossings were perilous than air, cold winds, and snow. Merchants had to slow their pace, wrap up in cloaks, and carefully ration food. The threat of avalanches or rock slides was constant, making teamwork and vigilance essential.
Were there any strategies to adapt to these harsh conditions?
Yes, they relied on local guides, adjusted loads for steeper climbs, and brewed strong, bitter tea for warmth and alertness. Modern mountaineers use similar tactics, layering clothing, focusing on hydration, and moving together for safety.
Along the road, merchants met a variety of people. How did interactions with pilgrims, monks, or entertainers shape the Silk Road experience?
These encounters enriched the journey. Pilgrims shared spiritual insights, monks introduced new philosophies, entertainers brought music and stories. Each exchange added to the cultural tapestry, fostering tolerance and curiosity, qualities crucial for peaceful trade.
Did conflicts ever arise from such diversity?
Occasionally, yes, differences in belief or language could cause tension. However, the shared hardships of travel often overrode divisions, leading to unexpected friendships and the spread of hybrid cultural practices.
As we come to the end of Rafiq's journey, what can we learn from the Silk Road that applies to our modern lives?
The Silk Road teaches us the value of patience, collaboration, and open-mindedness. In today's fast-paced world, its lessons remind us to slow down, cherish diversity, and embrace the unexpected. Many modern trade routes and cultural exchanges still echo these ancient patterns.
That's a powerful reflection. Any final thoughts on how listeners might bring Silk Road wisdom into their own routines?
Try adopting caravan time-build mindful rituals into your day. Remain open to new stories and see every journey as an opportunity for growth. Even in the rush of modern life, the spirit of the Silk Road can inspire us all to travel with grace and curiosity.
Imagine the relief weeks of trudging through dust, wind, and endless dunes, and suddenly the caravan crests a final hill. There it is, Kashgar, the legendary crossroads where east meets west. Have you ever felt that rush, stepping from hardship straight into possibility? Today, we'll explore a city that's more than just a destination. It's a living, breathing tapestry of cultures. Kashgar's bazaars have echoed for centuries with languages from Persian to Mandarin, and each arrival is a new thread woven into that ancient cloth. But what's it really like to cross that boundary? In trade jargon, we call this a liminal space, a threshold between worlds. For Rafiq and his fellow merchants, Kashgar isn't just a stop, it's a rite of passage. Every arrival is a rebirth, and every departure a promise to return. Now you might be thinking, is it all hustle and chaos? Surprisingly, no. Here, the Silk Road blooms not with noise, but with a gentle, steady pulse. It's not the rush of modern cities, but the heartbeat of an ancient marketa place where time itself seems to slow. Let me set the scene. Bright fabrics ripple in the breeze. The air is thick with the scent of saffron and roasted almonds. And beneath the fig trees, old men sip tea, unhurried. That's the paradox of Kashgar. It's a crossroads, yet deeply calm. So why does this matter? Because the spirit of a place shapes every journey that passes through it. Kashgar isn't just a waypoint, it's a mirror, reflecting both the exhaustion and anticipation of every traveler bold enough to cross its threshold. Let's dive into the heart of Kashgar Market. Picture it, stalls draped with every color you can imagine, baskets overflowing with almonds, saffron, and gem-like lapis lazuli. This isn't just commerce. It's a sensory symphony, what economists call an agora, a place where supply and demand meet face to face. Now, you might picture shouting, haggling, chaos, but here, bartering is gentle. there's an unspoken etiquette traders meet eyes, smile, and negotiate with a calm patience. It's like a dance. Each move is measured, every word weighed. I once heard an old merchant say, in Kashgar, you trade stories as much as goods. Every bolt of silk, every handful of almonds carries a journey. That sense of reciprocity of give and take keeps the market vibrant, yet peaceful. Think about it. What draws people in isn't just the goods, but the ritual, slow, satisfying rhythm of exchange. In a world rushing forward, Kashgar's market reminds us to savor each connection. So, next time you imagine a marketplace, remember, sometimes the real value isn't the product, but the shared momentone that can linger in memory long after the deal is done. Let's turn to Rafiq, our merchant. He unwraps his silks, laying them on a low table. But what's really happening here? It's not just a sale, it's a cultural exchange. Silk isn't just fabric. It's a technology, the product of intricate weaving and dyeing techniques perfected over generations. You might ask, why silk? Well, silk's tensile strength rivals that of steel, strand for strand, and its sheen? That's the magic of sericin, a natural protein that catches the light. These technical marvels turn each bolt of cloth into a work of art. People don't just buy, they linger, running fingers over the texture, marveling at the colors. In these exchanges, knowledge travels. A Persian motif here, a Chinese dye there, the market becomes a classroom where tradition and innovation blend. Now, you might be wondering, isn't this just business? But for Rafiq, it's personal. Every pattern tells a story. Every sale is a handshake across cultures. So, as Rafiq sits back, watching his goods find new hands, he's not just earning coin, he's weaving himself into the ongoing story of the silk rodone thread at a time. Let's pause and zoom in. Amid the bustle, there's a surprising serenity. Children laugh, old men sip tea, and the market's pace slows to a gentle hum. Why does this tranquility matter? Psychologists might call it collective mindfulness, a group state where people are present, attuned to each other and their surroundings. Now, imagine you're Rafiq. You've traveled for weeks, endured hardship, and now you're sitting, simply watching your silks catch the light as strangers admire them. There's a profound satisfaction here, what philosophers call ataraxia, or inner calm. You might be tempted to rush, to sell quickly and move on, but Kashgar's calm is contagious. Instead, Rafiq just sits. He lets the moment breathe. Let me tell you a story. In one quiet hour, Rafiq hears tales from a Tajik shepherd and a Han herbalist exchanges that would never happen in the clamor of a larger city. So, sometimes, the greatest reward isn't profit. It's the rare peace you find, sitting quietly as your goods and stories are shared with the world. Let's talk about the art of bartering. In Kashgar, negotiation isn't just about price. It's a trust-building exercise, a kind of social contract. Sociologists call this reciprocal exchange. Both sides give a little, and both walk away satisfied. Now, you might say, isn't haggling stressful? Actually, here it's almost ceremonial. Each offer and counter-offer is wrapped in politeness. The merchant might say, for you, my friend, a special price. It's less about the coins exchanged and more about mutual respect. There's even a concept called face-maintaining dignity and reputation during a deal. Lose your temper, and you lose future trade. Keep your composure, and you earn trust that lasts years. Let me ask, When was the last time you felt genuinely respected during a transaction? In Kashgar, every handshake is a promise, and every deal a small act of friendship. So next time you negotiate, remember, it's not just about getting the best price, it's about building a bondon that might outlast the goods themselves. Eventually, the road turns west. Rafik sets off with fewer goods, but his heart and his pakar heavier with stories. Here's the twist. Not every journey is about arriving. Sometimes it's about what you bring back: memories, experiences, lessons. In trade economics, this is called intangible capital. Goods are finite, but stories and friendships, they compound over time, enriching every future journey. Now, you might be thinking, isn't it disappointing to return with less? But for Rafik, each sale was an exchange not just of silk, but of culture, language, and laughter. Let me share a secret. Some of the most successful merchants are those who value relationships as much as revenue. Their reputations open doors in distant lands long after the goods are gone. So, as the caravan heads home, its real treasure isn't in the wagon sits in the hearts and minds of those who traveled together. As the caravan recedes into the distance, the journey doesn't end. Bells still jingle, the wind hums, and sand shifts beneath careful feet. This is what psychologists might call sensory anchoring, memories tied to sounds, scents, and textures. You might wonder, why do these little things stick with us? It's because our brains, through a process called episodic encoding, store vivid sensory details, making memories more durable and meaningful. Let me tell you a story. Years later, Rafik hears the faint ring of a bell and is instantly transported back to those nights beneath the stars, the gentle sway of camel feet. Now you might be thinking, isn't that just nostalgia? Maybe. But these echoes remind us that every journey leaves a mark, shaping the stories we tell and the people we become. So, as the bells fade and the wind carries memories away, remember, the smallest details can hold the deepest meaning. Returning home, Rafik is changed. Travelers call this reverse culture shock, the odd feeling of coming back to the familiar with new eyes. Anthropologists say that every journey is a rite of passage, a cycle of separation, transition, and return. Now, you might ask, what's different? For Rafik, the world feels both bigger and smaller. He's seen distant lands, tasted strange foods, survived cold passes. His home is the same, but he is not. Let me pose a question. Have you ever come home and felt like you didn't quite fit the same way? That's the mark of transformationa, quiet confidence, a lighter heart. In psychological terms, this is integration, blending new experiences into your identity. It's not always easy, but it's a sign of growth. So, as the fire burns low and tea cools in his cup, Rafikant, maybe you can feel that gentle warmth of journeys completed and lessons learned. What happens to a journey when it's over? It becomes a story passed from person to person, generation to generation. Folklorists call this oral tradition, and it's how knowledge travels farther than any caravan. Now, you might wonder, do these stories really matter? Absolutely. Each tale of cold passes, new foods, and fleeting friendships becomes a Lasona map for those who follow. Let me tell you a secret. Stories are the real currency of the Silk Road. Goods may wear out, but a well-told tale can outlast empires. Picture it. Around a low fire, the merchant's children listen wide-eyed as Rafik describes the deep silence of the desert, the laughter of children in far-off bazaars. So, as you settle in tonight, remember, Every journey you hear about becomes part of your own story. The road may have ended, but the sharing has just begun. And now the journey fades, and rest beckons. Anthropologists call this liminality, the in-between state where endings turn quietly into new beginnings. The stars above, the sand below, the breath of camels nearby, these become a lullaby for the road-weary heart. You might be thinking, how do you let go of adventure? The answer is simple. You don't. Not really. Each journey lives on, subtly shaping your dreams, your hopes, and your sense of home. Let me guide you. As the bells fade and the fire crackles low, allow yourself to rest. There's no need to remember every turn or hold tight to every detail. Let the journey carry you softly into sleep. Sleep researchers talk about hypnagogia, that gentle drift between wakefulness and slumber where memories mix and become dreams. Tonight, let the rhythms of the road rock you into that peaceful space. Good night, fellow traveler. May your own journeys past, present, and future bring you the same quiet warmth wherever you may rest.